Ah, welcome, welcome, welcome. You know exactly what you did. And so does Elon. That's the thing that makes this different from all the other moves people try, all the other innovations, all the pitches, the flashes, the predictable patterns of effort and claim. He watched it 3 times. The first time he thought he had misread something. The second time he slowed it down, rewound, analyzed every frame, every word, every nuance. The third time, he stopped trying to understand it altogether, and his face went blank. That pause wasn't hesitation. It wasn't disbelief. It wasn't admiration. It was a system encountering an input it couldn't process, a mind calibrated to see the edges of every move, every calculation, every potential, suddenly confronted with something that didn't obey any rules it had internalized. Most people don't realize what it means to be on the other side of someone like Elon Musk's intellect. People assume he reacts quickly because he's impulsive or because he's dramatic. They don't see the months, years, decades of scanning, dissecting, predicting, mastering context. When Elon Musk's face goes blank, it's not because he didn't understand. It's because he literally cannot fit the information into the framework his brain uses to make sense of the world. That's a rare phenomenon. That's what makes what you just did dangerous, not in the violent sense, but in the sense that it cannot be contained, cannot be reduced, cannot be neutralized by the usual methods of interpretation. And the brilliance of what you did is that it wasn't loud. It didn't scream for attention. It didn't demand context or validation. You didn't spell it out. You didn't frame it. You let it exist in its own space, and that is what broke the pattern recognition. People at Elon Musk's level don't respond to noise. They respond to violations of expectation. They respond to the things that challenge the models they use to predict behavior, to the formulas they rely on to measure possibility. And your move, whatever it was, wasn't just unexpected. It was uncategorizable. Think about that for a second. Elon Musk has watched more product launches, more innovations, more strategic plays than almost anyone alive. He has been the architect of vision and execution, the person who anticipates competitors' moves before they themselves realize what they're doing. And yet he had to watch it 3 times, not to enjoy it, not to learn from it, not to prepare a response, but to comprehend it at all. That's the kind of disturbance you created. That's the kind of intellectual gap that isn't filled by curiosity or effort. It can only exist when someone operates on a level of clarity and precision that the observer cannot parse. And it doesn't stop there. Because when Elon Musk's face went blank, that pause echoed farther than the screen you crossed. It reached the edges of the industry. People who work inside aerospace, inside technology, inside markets that respond almost instantly to signals they felt the ripple. Not the panic, not the hype. The subtle, almost imperceptible pause that comes when the benchmark, the measuring stick, the person who normally defines what is possible, suddenly cannot define it. That pause spreads. It creates recalculation. It forces every person who depends on his framework to stop and consider, did we miss something? Did someone just redefine the parameters while we weren't looking? And here's the quiet truth. It wasn't cleverness. It wasn't theatrics. It wasn't some flashy stunt that looks like mastery. It was understanding the mechanics of observation and interaction so thoroughly that you could operate in plain sight, visible, measurable, and still ungraspable. You didn't hide. You didn't obscure. You didn't perform ambiguity. You did something that couldn't be explained with standard analysis. Something that forced the most experienced, the most practiced, the most cognitively tuned people in the room, to encounter a wall of incomprehension. That's why Elon Musk didn't blink. He didn't lean in. He didn't sigh or smirk or shake his head. He just stopped. That face of blankness is not confusion in the normal sense. It is the mental recognition that the system, the internal operating code, cannot compute the input. And that is a very dangerous place to put someone like him, because he doesn't panic easily. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't mislabel threat. But he notices immediately the things he cannot anticipate. And when he notices them, everyone else around him notices as well, whether they understand why or not. The thing that makes your move devastating is not that it was complex. It wasn't about outsmarting the obvious. It was about outsmarting the cognitive expectation itself. People are trained to see patterns, to trace cause and effect, to predict outcomes. They can calculate leverage points, probabilities, motivations, and angles. You didn't just operate outside their predictions. You rendered the predictions themselves irrelevant. You presented information that could not be fit into an existing model. And that kind of intellectual outplay doesn't just cause pause, it causes re-evaluation of entire assumptions. And here's the next layer. It's one thing to confuse a mind like ELON'S in a single instance. That's impressive. But you repeated it, or at least allowed it to be encountered repeatedly. He watched it 3 times, which is not casual. It's not attention. It's analysis. He needed to confirm. And confirmation failed every time. Every replay reinforced the inability to classify. Every replay deepened the sense that there's something fundamentally different happening. And when people like Elon Musk confirm an anomaly like this, they do not keep it to themselves. Without overt signaling, without drama, without announcement, the entire web of influence begins to respond quietly. Decisions, strategies, expectations, they all shift in ways invisible but unavoidable. You did not seek that shift. You did not plan it. You did not frame it. You simply acted, or perhaps you simply allowed the natural unfolding of skill, insight, and timing to reveal itself. And because it came without posturing, without explanation, without appeal, it could not be dismissed. It could not be appropriated. It could not be reduced to a formula, a trend, a meme, a talking point. It was self-contained, self-validating, and unreadable. Most people will never understand this distinction. They assume influence is about visibility, about recognition, about control. But this was different. This was about comprehension. The moment Elon Musk could not comprehend what you just did, the moment his mind hesitated in the face of clarity, he inadvertently signaled something far more powerful than your action itself. That signal spreads. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't brag. It simply exists as evidence that a higher order pattern is at work, one that even the best minds cannot predict. And that's what makes the ripple unavoidable. Because the industry, while it watches for spectacle, thrives on anticipation. It thrives on leaders who can be measured, on genius that can be categorized, on innovation that can be rationalized. When someone produces an output that cannot be rationalized, the default reaction isn't awe. It's pause, review, recalculation, subtle anxiety. That's why Elon's face went blank. That's why the executives, the analysts, the engineers, the influencers all noticed. That's why quiet conversations, small meetings, and private briefings began to orbit around your move. And it's not about the content itself. It's not about the technical brilliance or novelty, though those exist. It's about intellectual ownership of the invisible framework. You didn't just do something smart. You did something that could not be processed by a mind that normally processes almost everything. That distinction is subtle, but critical. It changes everything. Because everyone else in the room knows that if Elon Musk can't parse it, then any model, any prediction, any plan, any attempt to control the narrative is suddenly uncertain. And uncertainty at that level does not feel like a hypothesis. It feels like a shift in reality itself. And here's the final point. You didn't do it once and vanish. You didn't leave an obvious trail. You allowed the work to exist, visible but not explained, reproducible but not predictable. Elon Musk, the industry, everyone who saw it, they can analyze, dissect, speculate. They can talk about it, try to imitate it, argue over it. But they cannot truly anticipate it. They cannot fully understand it. They cannot reduce it. And that is why the moment you act again, whether immediately or later, will land with the same effect. Recalibration, pause, blank processing, and a quiet, cascading ripple that moves through the top tiers of influence without ever announcing itself. What happens next is never public at first. That's something people misunderstand about moments like this. They expect reaction to look loud, visible, dramatic. They expect statements, tweets, panels, headlines. But at this level, reaction looks like absence. It looks like rooms going quiet after your name is mentioned. It looks like people choosing different words, asking different questions, postponing decisions they were confident about an hour earlier. Elon doesn't comment. He doesn't explain. He doesn't dismiss it either. He stores it. And when someone like Elon stores something mentally, it doesn't sit idle. It becomes a reference point, a silent comparison against which future information is measured. The industry feels that shift immediately, even if no one can articulate it, because so much of how this world operates depends on shared assumptions. Assumptions about who leads, who follows, who reacts, who sets direction. When Elon Musk encounters something he cannot decode, those assumptions loosen, not collapse. Loosen. And loosened assumptions make people uneasy. They create space where certainty used to be, space where new hierarchies can form without permission. You have to understand how rare this is. Elon's entire reputation is built on speed of comprehension. He sees patterns before they harden. He understands systems while others are still describing them. So when he doesn't immediately get something, the issue isn't intelligence, it's orientation. Your move didn't meet him on familiar ground. It didn't challenge him directly. It stepped sideways, forcing him to rotate mentally just to find a place to stand. And that rotation takes time. Meanwhile, others are watching him watch. They notice the extra replay. They notice the lack of comment. They notice the difference between this and the thousands of other things that cross his attention daily. People at this level are experts in reading micro-reactions, not because they're dramatic, but because those micro-reactions determine resource flow. When Elon pauses, capital pauses. When he recalibrates, timelines shift. When he withholds judgment, entire teams do the same. That's how the ripple grows, quietly, invisibly, through alignment rather than instruction. No one says, "This changes everything." But everyone starts acting as if something has changed. They double-check assumptions. They ask for second opinions. They revisit decisions that were supposedly final. And somewhere inside all of that, your work sits, unaddressed, but ever present, like a reference no one can quite remove from the equation. What's fascinating is that the industry keeps trying to approach this the wrong way. They assume there must be a trick, a shortcut, a clever manipulation. a hidden layer that explains everything, if only they can isolate it. So they dissect the surface, they study the structure, they copy elements they think matter, and none of it works. Because the thing that unsettled Elon Musk wasn't on the surface. It wasn't technical flair or presentation. It was the underlying logic, the internal coherence that didn't announce itself but held everything together. That's why imitation fails so quickly. Others reproduce what they can see, but they can't reproduce what they can't perceive. And what they can't perceive is the internal discipline behind the move. The refusal to over-explain. The decision to let the results stand without justification. The absence of signaling that normally gives observers a handle. You didn't give them a handle. You didn't give them a story to repeat. You gave them something that worked without telling them why. Elon understands this instinctively, even if he can't articulate it yet. He knows the difference between complexity and depth. He knows when something is merely intricate versus when it's fundamentally aligned. That's why the confusion lingers. That's why it doesn't resolve with more data. More data usually clarifies. In this case, more data only reinforces the same conclusion. There is no obvious angle of attack. And this is where the pressure quietly flips. At first, the attention is on you. Who are you? Where did this come from? What does it mean? But as time passes without resolution, the attention turns inward. Why didn't we see this coming? Why don't our models account for this? What else are we missing? That internal questioning is far more destabilizing than any external threat, because it undermines confidence in the tools people rely on to feel competent. You don't participate in this questioning. You don't correct misconceptions. You don't clarify intent. You don't step in to guide interpretation. That restraint is not accidental. It's part of the same posture that created the effect in the first place. You understand something most people never learn. Explanation is a form of control, but it's also a form of exposure. By refusing to explain, you remain intact. By remaining intact, you stay unreadable. Elon's confusion becomes a kind of anchor. People reference it indirectly. He's still thinking about that. He hasn't commented yet. He re-watched it. Those statements carry weight not because of what they say, but because of what they imply. If someone at that level hasn't resolved it, then no one else is comfortable pretending they have. That shared uncertainty creates a strange equality at the top, where everyone is waiting for someone else to speak first, and no one does. So the industry enters a holding pattern without realizing it. Innovation continues, projects move forward. But there's a subtle hesitation now, a sense that something foundational may have shifted. People are more cautious about declaring certainty, more careful about assuming leadership. They are watching not just you, but each other, trying to see who adjusts first. What makes this moment so powerful is that you are not competing with Elon Musk. You are not positioning yourself against him. You are not challenging his authority or attempting to replace his role. That would be readable. That would invite response. Instead, you exist adjacent to his field of influence without acknowledging it. You operate as if his reaction, or lack thereof, is irrelevant to your process. And that indifference is what turns curiosity into concern. Because indifference from someone capable signals independence. It suggests that whatever internal compass guided your move does not rely on external validation, even from the most influential figures alive. That's a rare signal, one that cannot be bought, imitated, or forced. It has to be genuine. And genuine signals are the hardest to deal with because they can't be negotiated with. As time passes, the narrative others try to build around your move grows more elaborate. Some say it was accidental, some say it was inevitable, some say it will fade. But none of those explanations stick, because Elon still hasn't resolved it. And until he does, no explanation feels complete. His blank reaction remains an open loop in the collective mind of the industry. You are aware of this, but you are not consumed by it. That's another detail people miss. They assume that causing this level of disturbance must come with obsession, with constant monitoring, with a need to track reactions. But your attention hasn't shifted. Your work continues. Your focus remains internal. And that consistency further destabilizes attempts to predict you. The industry keeps waiting for a follow-up that explains the first move. A clarification, a justification, a reveal that makes it all make sense in hindsight. But that reveal never comes. Instead, what comes next, if anything, simply exists on its own terms as well. And when that happens, the pattern becomes undeniable. This wasn't a fluke. This is a way of operating. Elon begins to recognize that too. Not consciously at first, but instinctively. He stops trying to decode the specific move and starts paying attention to the posture behind it. The discipline, the restraint, the refusal to play familiar games. That's when interest deepens into something else entirely. Not admiration, not threat, assessment. An assessment at that level doesn't rush. It watches, it waits, it compares. It looks for leverage and finds none. Because leverage requires access, and you haven't offered any. You haven't invited collaboration. You haven't invited opposition. You haven't invited interpretation. You've simply demonstrated capability and moved on. That's why the industry can't settle. They are used to reacting, used to categorizing, used to placing people within known hierarchies. You resist placement. You don't fit above or below. You sit outside the frame entirely. And frames are how complex environments stay manageable. When something sits outside the frame, it demands a new one. The creation of a new frame is slow. It happens through conversation, observation, repetition. It happens when enough people quietly agree that the old frame no longer applies. Elon's blank reaction accelerates that process. It gives permission to doubt existing assumptions. It legitimizes uncertainty. You didn't ask for that permission. You didn't need it. But it was granted anyway. And once granted, it can't be taken back. So now the industry exists in a strange dual state. On the surface, everything looks normal. Progress continues. But underneath, there is an unresolved question that refuses to go away. Not about what you did, but about what else you might do, and whether anyone will see it coming next time. And that question lingers. It shapes decisions quietly. It alters risk calculations. It introduces hesitation where confidence once lived. All because one person, at the very top, watched something 3 times and couldn't explain it. You remain where you are, focused, unbothered, operating according to your own internal logic. And as that logic continues to produce results without explanation, the gap between perception and reality widens further. Which brings us to the edge of the next phase, because unresolved questions do not stay unresolved forever. They either dissolve or they force confrontation. And as the industry continues to orbit this moment, as Elon continues to carry that blank pause forward with him, the conditions quietly assemble for the next movement. Not louder, not clearer, but more consequential. And that is where this goes next. You need to understand the scale of what is about to unfold. Elon Musk's blank moment wasn't a fleeting hesitation. It wasn't an aesthetic pause that disappears with the next update or tweet. It was a reconfiguration of expectation at the very top. When someone at his level freezes, it isn't just his cognition that shifts. It radiates. Teams adjust. Advisors rethink timelines. Competitors reconsider moves. Investors hesitate. Analysts second-guess models. That pause becomes a vector of influence, subtle but pervasive, impossible to ignore even if you wanted to. And you didn't force it. You didn't orchestrate spectacle. You didn't hint or leak or manipulate. You acted, or perhaps you existed, in a way that couldn't be predicted, couldn't be reverse-engineered, couldn't be slotted into the mental scaffolding of even the most prepared minds. Elon observed, paused, and immediately, without speaking, triggered a recalibration. That recalibration spreads, silently, invisibly, across the entire ecosystem that depends on him. Because in a world governed by Elon Musk's anticipatory frameworks, when his understanding halts, so does the rhythm of countless adjacent decisions. The brilliance of what you just accomplished is that it operates entirely through comprehension, or the absence of it. Not through influence, not through dominance, not through dramatic gestures. Those are low-level manipulations. You've created a situation where the impossibility itself exerts authority. You've designed an effect that exists independently of intention, independently of narrative, independently of anyone's capacity to control it. And that is what terrifies people quietly. It's not that they cannot win against you. It's that they cannot understand you. They cannot predict you. They cannot categorize you. And in an environment like this, that is a far greater form of power than any overt action. And yet, you continue forward, not slowly, not cautiously, but deliberately, almost surgically, aware that your actions are redefining the mental rules of engagement without creating visible conflict. You do not declare victory. You do not insist on recognition. You do not give Elon Musk, or anyone else, the satisfaction of framing your move as a challenge or a statement. That restraint is another layer of the effect, because the moment you require explanation, the moment you demand recognition, you create a handle. And a handle is what the system seizes to restore control. You removed the handle entirely, which brings us to the next subtle truth. The industry doesn't know how to respond. Elon doesn't know how to respond. They can't go silent forever, but neither can they act decisively. Their natural impulses are to measure, to predict, to leverage. But there is nothing measurable here. There is no precedent. There is no prior data to compare. Every familiar tactic of influence fails because your methodology, if it can even be called that, is invisible. You don't posture. You don't signal, you simply exist, and the results accumulate. That is the quiet terror. That is the blank that Elon felt. That is the ripple that spreads through the industry without anyone ever formally acknowledging it. They begin to analyze patterns. Meetings are convened. Charts are drawn. Reports are circulated. But every report ultimately concludes the same thing. We don't know how this happened. And the phrase carries weight because it comes after hours of disciplined observation, after repeated exposure, after Elon himself failed to resolve it. This isn't ordinary confusion. This is systemic recalibration, forced by the realization that someone can act outside the predictive models that define everything around them. And here's the fascinating part. Your presence doesn't just unsettle. It accelerates evolution, not through competition, not through confrontation, not through loud declaration, but through quiet insistence on possibility. People who encounter the work, who see the effect, unconsciously expand their own expectations of what is achievable. Elon sees it. He doesn't comment. But his internal frameworks shift. He recalibrates, recalculates, considers what the boundaries really are. And those boundaries are no longer certain. The industry, in turn, absorbs that uncertainty. Teams that would normally proceed with standard protocols pause just slightly. Investments are delayed, strategic decisions reconsidered, risk models updated. Not because you instructed them to, not because you announced your intentions, but because someone at the top, the person whose mind sets the rhythm, cannot predict you. That ripple moves in ways that are invisible, untraceable, but profoundly effective. And it's important to notice this subtlety. You didn't need to dominate the narrative. You didn't need to create tension or conflict. You didn't even need to announce the significance of your move. The fact that it exists and is visible without being explainable is sufficient. That is the hallmark of intellectual leverage at the highest level. The ability to induce systemic recalibration simply by acting in a way that aligns perfectly with your own principles while remaining opaque to observers. Elon, like the rest of the industry, begins to look for patterns that aren't there. They search for precedent. They try to map your logic against familiar frameworks, and every attempt fails. They cannot find it because it isn't external. It is internal. It is how you process, how you choose, how you align insight, timing, and execution. It is invisible until results appear, and the results, some are undeniable. The output cannot be disputed, but the input, impossible to trace. This is what turns a single action into a sustained phenomenon. You are not a disruptor because you interrupted a process. You are a disruptor because you exist on a level that disrupts comprehension itself. Every observer knows something is different, but they cannot say what. Every analysis hits a wall. Every attempt at simplification fails, and yet the effect accumulates. Elon Musk's blank face is the emblem of this effect. It is the human recognition of a process that cannot be processed. And that leads to a critical insight for the next stage. Influence is not the same as attention. Influence does not depend on visibility, commentary, or acknowledgement. Influence depends on the alignment between action and outcome in a space observers cannot fully control. You do not seek to be influential in a conventional sense. You seek to act according to principle while remaining opaque, and that is infinitely more destabilizing than any declared confrontation could ever be. The pause Elon Musk experienced is now being carried forward in subtle ways. Boardroom discussions, investment decisions, project timelines, all are quietly affected because the most powerful mind in that network is uncertain. And uncertainty, even silent, spreads. That is the secret of your impact. It doesn't require amplification. It doesn't require performance. It requires clarity of purpose, precision of action, and strategic invisibility of method. Meanwhile, the ripple strengthens because the industry continues to look for an explanation. They analyze data, interviews, market moves, social signals. They search for a narrative that will restore predictability. They cannot find it. And every failed attempt reinforces the perception that something unique, irreducible, and untouchable is operating at the center of their ecosystem. That perception grows quietly, unannounced, like a gravitational pull that subtly shifts trajectories. And you do not participate in any of this. You maintain presence where it matters. You produce outcomes where they matter. But your attention is selective, disciplined, You are not monitoring ELON'S pause. You are not reacting to the industry's recalibration. You are simply continuing along your own trajectory, guided by your own internal logic. That is why your effect is so enduring. It cannot be reversed because it never depended on external validation. Which brings us to the threshold of the next moment. Because the industry, once destabilized in this way, cannot simply return to equilibrium. Once a mind like Elon Musk's has been paused, once patterns have failed to contain something, once uncertainty has spread quietly through decisions and strategy, the system is altered. It will try to stabilize, but it can never fully return to the prior state. Your move has permanently shifted the reference points, the benchmarks, the measures of what is possible, and now the conditions for the final phase are quietly, imperceptibly forming. Elon's blank face is not a memory, it is a pivot point. The ripple you created will consolidate into influence without announcement, authority without performance, and disruption without spectacle. It is the rare combination of action, precision, and incomprehensibility. And the moment it consolidates, it will redefine the playing field entirely. You remain unchanged, calm, focused, intentional. Not because you are detached, but because you understand that the real leverage is internal, invisible, and enduring. And that is what separates this from ordinary disruption. That is why Elon's pause and the industry's recalibration are not temporary. They are the beginning of a quiet transformation that moves under the surface, unseen but unstoppable. Now here's the subtle brilliance of what has been set in motion. Elon Musk may have watched it 3 times. He may have tried to reverse engineer it, analyze it, model it, discuss it with the people around him. And yet he cannot fully understand it. Not because he is lacking intelligence or vision, not because he failed to notice. He cannot understand it because it exists outside the predictable dimensions of his expectation. And when someone like Elon encounters something that cannot be predicted, it does not vanish, it lingers, it reshapes, it becomes a reference that cannot be erased. The ripple expands quietly, imperceptibly, across the networks that depend on clarity, on predictable cause and effect. Investors, partners, advisors, competitors, they are all subtly influenced by the pause, the unresolved outcome, the impossibility of anticipating your next move. Every decision they make from this moment forward is measured against a new, invisible baseline. A baseline you established without any announcement, without hype, without confrontation. That is the genius of it. You didn't disrupt. You transcended the expectation of disruption. You made disruption irrelevant because the framework itself no longer applies. And notice this. Elon's blank face becomes a symbol, not an endpoint. It is a marker in time that everyone will reference mentally, even when the specific event fades. Remember that moment when Elon didn't react? It becomes shorthand for the kind of impact that cannot be fully processed, anticipated, or contained. And that shorthand guides behavior across the industry. People hesitate, they double-check, they reconsider what they thought they knew. They operate more cautiously, more thoughtfully, more observantly. And all of this is happening without a single word from you. You did not need to speak. You did not need to justify. You did not need to explain. Every analyst, every boardroom discussion, every conference call that references your work is doing the work for you. They are carrying forward the recognition that something has shifted, even if they cannot articulate it. That recognition, quietly reinforced is far more enduring than headlines, tweets, or public spectacle ever could be. And here's the next layer. Elon Musk is still observing, still analyzing, still unconsciously adjusting. He may never articulate it publicly. He may never tweet about it. But internally, he is recalibrating. His perception of possibility has been altered. His mental models of what can be executed, what can be anticipated, what can be controlled, have been expanded. And those models influence countless decisions, not just his own, but the decisions of the teams, investors, and collaborators who operate around him. That is leverage at the highest level, creating transformation without coercion, without noise, without explicit confrontation. You didn't force compliance. You didn't seek recognition. You simply acted or existed in a way that made the existing models insufficient. And insufficiency creates the conditions for systemic change. Meanwhile, the industry searches for rational explanations. They dissect the visible elements. They try to isolate technique, method, or strategy. They convene meetings, run simulations, conduct analyses. And every time they do, they encounter the same result. There is no external mechanism to grasp. What they see is real, measurable, undeniable. But the cause is embedded internally, in your logic, your timing, your deliberate alignment of action and principle. That is why imitation fails, speculation falters, and Elon's pause persists. And it is not just Elon who is affected. Anyone operating at a high level within the ecosystem absorbs the subtle shift. Teams pause before executing. Collaborators reconsider standard approaches. Competitors question previously reliable assumptions. Small actions, small decisions, all recalibrated around an event that was never meant to be spectacular. That is the quiet power of operating outside expectation. That is the distinction between influence and control. You did not seek to control anyone. You simply acted in alignment with your internal logic, and control became irrelevant. What makes this enduring is that your leverage is self-contained and invisible. You do not expend energy managing perception. You do not manipulate outcomes overtly. You do not broadcast superiority. You simply embody a process that produces outcomes which cannot be anticipated or replicated by others. And the moment others recognize that, the effect compounds. The blank pause Elon felt does not remain a single event. It becomes a recurring reference point, a standard by which the unpredictable is measured. And the more it is referenced, the more entrenched its influence becomes. You see, this is the ultimate form of strategic disruption, not the kind that grabs headlines for hours or days, not the kind that provokes immediate reaction, the kind that resets expectations, realigns priorities, and introduces uncertainty at the highest level, all without explicit interference. Elon Musk may never fully understand it. He may never codify it. And that is precisely why your impact endures. The final point, and the most profound, is this. Your effect is multiplicative. Each time the industry encounters your work, encounters the consequences, or recalls Elon's pause, it compounds. They anticipate patterns, but patterns do not exist. They seek precedent, but precedent fails. They attempt control, but access has been denied. And over time, this creates a network of influence, silent but undeniable, that shapes decisions, behaviors, and perceptions in ways that cannot be counteracted by conventional strategies. And you don't stop. You continue to act, to create, to exist along your trajectory. You do not engage in reactive calculation. You do not explain. You do not perform. Your work simply accumulates, and with each accumulation, ELON'S pause and the industry's recalibration become a permanent reference point, a standard against which every subsequent move is measured, yet one that can never be fully understood or replicated. That is why the ripple is unstoppable. That is why what you just did, whatever it was, however it manifested, cannot be nullified. That is why Elon Musk, one of the most analytically capable minds alive, could watch 3 times and still not figure it out. Because the true mechanics of what you accomplished are not external. They are internal, invisible, strategic, and irreducible. And as the quiet transformation spreads, as recalibration settles into every adjacent decision-making process, you remain at the center, unchanged, unreadable, and fully intact. You did not fight. You did not boast. You did not signal superiority. You simply demonstrated a new law of engagement, and in doing so, reshaped the entire ecosystem quietly, but irrevocably. By the time observers, investors, partners, competitors, analysts, and even Elon begin to realize the magnitude of what occurred, it will already be woven into the fabric of their decision-making. It will no longer be a single event. It will be a reference, a benchmark, a silent measure of what is possible when someone operates without the need for permission, without expectation, and without exposure. And here is the final truth that concludes this sequence. You are untouchable, not because of force, not because of spectacle, not because of recognition, but because you exist outside the predictable frameworks of influence, comprehension, and expectation. Elon Musk's blank face was only the first visible signal. The full impact is ongoing, cumulative, and permanent. The industry has shifted quietly, irreversibly, and you did it without performing, without declaring, without inviting attention. You acted, and the world adjusted without realizing it. That is why this matters. That is why this endures. That is why Elon Musk, after 3 attempts to process it, still cannot fully comprehend what happened. And that is why, from this moment forward, every interaction, every project, every decision that touches your orbit is filtered through the invisible, untraceable, and undeniable influence you have established. No one can replicate it. No one can predict it. No one can counter it. And that is the final, unspoken, and unstoppable outcome of whatever you just did.